What if one of the simplest ways to restore your energy has been hiding in light itself? In this episode, I sit down with Philip A. Wilson, whose journey from mathematics to holistic healing led him deep into the world of far infrared light, a spectrum that interacts directly with the water and energy systems of the body. We explore how this specific wavelength may support detoxification, cellular vitality, and that unmistakable feeling of renewal that so many high-performing healers are quietly craving. If you've been doing all the right things and still feel depleted, this conversation opens a fascinating bridge between physics, the body's natural rhythms, and practical tools you can use to recharge from the inside out. Welcome to Break Free from the Burnout. I'm your host, Dr. Anastasia Chopelas, physicist turned energy healer. I'm here to help you make the quantum shifts to release the hidden blocks to your success. Your next breakthrough starts now. Philip, welcome to the show. I'm so delighted that you're here to talk about not only your personal transformation, but also a little bit of the science in the healing of infrared light. You mentioned when you wrote to me that you had a personal transformation after you got your mathematics degree. Can you share a little bit about that, what happened, and how you went from mathematics to holistic health and eventually to energy-based healing?
Yeah, in a nutshell, my girlfriend in college that I'd been dating for a year or two, she found another boyfriend, and I, for lack of a better word, I put up with it because I was still getting a lot out of the relationship. And so finally things hit the fan and I recognized that this other guy was better for her, that he could give her what she needed, I couldn't. And so as a result of that, my whole world of my future was shattered, which was one of the most wonderful things in the world that happened to me because it brought about my awakening. And so I had a realization to get out of the throes of despair and to get on with my life that I needed to get involved with music, art, and dance. That was the realization. 3 years later, after 100,000 different experiences, I looked back and saw that these 2 or 3 beings took me out of my body. They showed me this area where women were doing dance, women were doing art, women were doing music. Mm-hmm. And they said, you need to do that. You are so left brain, and you basically, without saying it, they were saying, you need to start feeling you've been a thinker. And so you need to balance the two in your life. Behind the scenes, and then I got connected to this water from once you drink, you never drink again, you never thirst again. That happened to me. Somehow I had this inner guidance nudging me into all these experiences for the next year. The spontaneity that and the coincidences that it talks about in the beginning pages of the Celestine Prophecy, which came out around 1990 by James Redfield. Then about 18 months after that experience, in August of 71, the out-of-body experience was February 1st, 1970. I met some yogi on campus at Ohio State. He asked me a question, what's happening at night? And I just flippantly said, I didn't know. And then I said, let me think. They came up with the same answer. I didn't know because that wasn't what I did much. But we ended up talking, and then he came over to my house and he showed me these Kriya Yoga techniques, and we did it for about an hour and a half. He left, he came back, we did it for more. And after all that, my whole body, every single cell in my body was electrified and filled with light and bouncing around. And the next day I couldn't eat anything. He said he himself was a fruitarian and fruits and nuts. And so basically I ate meat 3 days later, was comatose for about 8-9 hours of meditating before I felt good again. And then 3 days later, and the same thing happened. So anyway, it got me into the holistic health. It got me into herbs. It got me into fasting. I couldn't do sugar. I couldn't do white flour. I couldn't do anything that was heavy. I couldn't even do eggs. And I was living on that.
I noticed in your story, you had quite a journey of going through and having a health food store or selling health products?
Yes, eventually in 1973, I started part-time selling these herbal vitamins with these 12 special herbs. And then in 76, when I didn't get my master's degree in math that I went back to school for after resigning my fellowship, I didn't have a job. This part-time selling herbal vitamins, I jumped off and started doing full-time. And after 4 years of doing that, I rented a building, and the building eventually became a health food store. And not just that, but a distributing network selling to other health food stores and health professionals. And I pretty much did that until 1997.
Yeah, that was right at the late 60s and early 70s. It was like the awakening in the United States, more and more people going towards healthier foods. I know that in 1960, my dad went to healthy foods because he ended up with the mumps when he was 28. And he never felt good again. It turned out he had what's called thalassemia, or a Mediterranean anemia. The only people that were around doing healthy stuff were like Jack LaLanne and his mentor. And so people would come over and we'd have all whole grains and homemade breads and homemade yogurts and all vegetables. People say, oh, to use some kind of health nuts. Mm-hmm. So we were the health nuts down the block at that time.
What city did you grow up in?
I started out in Massachusetts, and in 1960 we moved to California. So I've been in California for a lot of my life, but I spent 26 years away. I spent 13 years in Germany, several years in Seattle, Nevada, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and a couple of years in Houston. So I've been all over.
I live in Las Vegas for the last 7 years, by the way.
Yeah, I was a professor at UNLV.
Nice.
Yeah. In physics.
Oh my God. And we're going to have some fun talking about what the Relax Sauna can do. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Because we're going to talk a little bit about far infrared light, which is the super science, right? Far infrared light. Infrared light starts at 700 nanometers and it goes out to a few microns. So what range are we going to be talking about, and why is that important?
The red light ends, as you said, at 0.76 microns, and the near infrared goes generally. Different people say different thing. I say that near infrared is from 0.76 to 2 microns, mid is 2 to 4 microns, and far infrared is from 4 microns all the way up to 1,000 microns. But what we're talking about is the 4 to 14 micron wavelength, I guess. It's not really, I've said it's a frequency, but it's actually the wavelength.
Yeah, it's correct. It's the wavelength.
And we, as human beings, according to Dr. Sherry Rogers in her book, Detoxify or Die, we radiate between 3 and 50 microns, but almost all of it is around 9.4 microns. And what I read, water is generally about 8 microns is what I've been taught. And it makes sense because some people say we're 70% water. Dr. Gerald Pollack, in his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, says we are actually 99% water.
We're 70% water by mass.
That's okay.
Where, I don't know, by volume, it's probably a little different, but by mass, it was 70% water, but we're mostly empty space anyway.
Right. That's what my ex-wife would say. We're bags of water with a few minerals.
Why were you attracted to this far infrared healing in the first place? What convinced you it could be such a powerful healing tool?
When I first saw the sauna I was selling massage tools for 20 years at conferences. And that's how I made my living besides the health food store and the health food distributing business. I had selling about 70 different massage tools. And so I was doing that at a biological dentist conference in Las Vegas. And of course, the next day in the same hotel was a spa show, a medical spa show. I found a way to get in. And there, as soon as I went in, one of the first booths was one of my massage tool suppliers with a portable sauna there. And I said, oh my God, I have loved saunas since I've been age 16. I've always loved the feeling of going in and having that sweat just drip off me. And every time a drop of sweat would drop off me, I'd feel like uplifted, like energized, like awakened. And so it felt like a little boy on Christmas morning, just the realization that I could have a sun in my home. And so I got one.
Yeah, that's the big advantage, is that they're small enough that you can fit them in your home. You don't have to have this big space. In Germany, I lived in Germany for 13 years, and in Germany, sauna is like this whole social experience. And you go to the sauna and you sit all day, first hot in the hot room, and then you dip into the ice water, and then have you go into the hot room again, and then you sit outside where it's snowing out. It's like a whole day experience, and you feel amazing afterwards. But being able to have this in your home, that's just really special.
Every so often, I'll do it for 20 minutes. I drink water before, do it for 20 minutes, get out, drink some water, maybe take a shower, and do it for another 20 minutes, and then do it one more time. And when I do that, I tell people, I feel like I've been at the spa for 9 hours.
And it does magic things for your skin. It detoxes you, all of that sweating. It's just, well, like I always notice that I look 10 years younger after coming out of it.
Yeah. If people get into Relax Sauna and they've had it for a couple of years, even a couple of days or a couple of weeks, always say their skin looks so much prettier. There's so much. I can come as a young man, and people tell me how pretty my skin looks. I don't know any better, so it looks that way. But yeah, people tell me after they've been in for a couple of days, their skin looks radiant. But there's a difference between the infrared saunas and the Finnish saunas. And then there's a difference between the Relax Sauna and the infrared or full spectrum saunas.
So could you give me an example of what somebody would experience, what kind of healing they could expect by going into these far infrared saunas?
Yes, absolutely. The Finnish saunas are very popular, and there's probably about 2% far infrared ray in the rocks. And of course, when I come to the shows, I run into someone in Finland, they say, it's a sauna.
Yes, it's a sauna. Yes, that's how we pronounce it in Germany too.
But the near infrared saunas or the full spectrum are simply they call them far infrared saunas, but they have a combination of near and mid. It's like a misnomer, but they say that the sweat coming out of infrared saunas is about 17% toxins, and the sweat coming out of a Finnish sauna is about 2% toxins.
Oh, interesting. So this far infrared is much more penetrating.
It is penetrating to begin with, and the Finnish saunas are not necessarily penetrating because they work with heat, and the infrared saunas work with light, with a frequency of light.
Yeah, our eyes don't perceive infrared past about 740 to 750 nanometers.
But to finish answering the question, the far infrared is the magical frequency, especially between 7 and 14 or between 4 and 14 microns. Mm-hmm. What I've been learning recently is that, see, Dr. Sherry Rogers, I think I mentioned, we're between 3. And we are far infrared light beings. We shine far infrared light. We absorb far infrared light. Water is a far infrared molecule, and hence we become a repository for far infrared light in the same way that the solar panels become a repository for sunlight, and that it stores energy. So what I've learned recently is that the far infrared energy, and I've been saying for 23 years now, that the whole purpose of a far infrared sauna is to vibrate your water molecules. And when this happens, according to Dr. Yamaguchi in Japan, who's done a lot of research, he says this weakens the ionic bonds in the water and hence releases toxic poisonous gases, namely sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. It also will raise your body temperature because 100 people in a small room dancing, it gets hot. In your body, you're dancing, your body's going to get hot. Now, the increase in body temperature, when Hippocrates sees this, he says, bingo, all I need for you to do is create a fever in your body, and I will be able to cure any disease. Now, of course, that's not the language we want to use in America right now, because we're not allowed to cure anything except for beef. Otherwise, they put you in jail.
Yes, I know. They're really tough on those laws. But I started running when I was 14, and I ran for many years, 6 miles before breakfast every day. So I created my own artificial fever, and I did not get sick. And I still walk. I walk 2 hours a day still. So that's like a lot of people will come up to me, don't you ever change?
You think, oh, isn't that great? You look good. You do not look your.
And I attribute it to the exercise and the getting warm, and I do it all outside. I don't do it in a gym. I do it all outside in the sun. So I'm getting a full spectrum out there. Not only do you detox, tell me a little bit about the regeneration that happens with these long wavelength infrared.
The far infrared between 7 and 14 microns is what Dr. Yamaguchi says is the only wavelength that actually vibrates our water molecules.
Yeah, and what does that do for people? I know a lot of people they sell these infrared pads that you can lay on they show a light, but you can't really see that wavelength. And then you get these infrared wands that help heal the skin, for example. So does this wavelength also contribute to those kinds of healings?
The 7 to 14 micron, especially, I call it the loving light of the sun.
Okay.
And what it does, our bodies are usually about 15% structured water or organized water.
Yes.
Infrared energy actually increases that in 10 to 15 minutes, 50% to 100%.
Wow.
And it charges the water. And Dr. Pollack said in his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, that the far infrared energy gives the plant the power to move and to bend, and again, by vibrating the water molecules. So it's very special. And then all the saunas are out there, whether it be a Finnish sauna, an Amazon portable sauna, a wood Finnish sauna, a wood infrared sauna, they're all good. What distinguishes the far infrared light or the Relax Sauna happens to be 100% far infrared light, tested by MIT and Harvard Science and Technology Lab. They measured us with a bolometer. They said we're all between 7 and 14 microns.
I don't know if you're aware of these studies, but people have been first exposed to a full spectrum and then put in a completely dark room with photomultipliers to measure what wavelengths of light come off of them. Their cells have absorbed different wavelengths, and whatever they expel out of their body tells them how well or how sick they are. So I found that particular study really fascinating because you could detect, before a doctor can, you can detect illnesses in the making. And it's the same with energy healing because I detect that ahead of time. That might be something to look into because some of that, what you're talking about, is helping shift those wavelengths to the healthier end.
When we go to a lot of these shows, one person had a machine that measured the joule energy of the human body. And he put this one lady in for 20 minutes and did a before and after. And he says, I've tested this with 130 different machines or devices that are supposed to, and I've never seen anything like this, even close to the increase that we've experienced with the Relax Sauna.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I've been to shows like that. I've also given talks at shows like that. And I always say, predict the phenomenon in reverse sine when it comes to me. They say, oh, don't you feel better? No. The sauna is the only one. Like whenever anything interferes with my own vibrational field, but the radiation is something different. This would be beneficial for everybody. So you've spent over 40 years helping people heal naturally. What have you learned about maintaining your own energy, your own purpose, and your own vitality, especially while serving others?
I got very much into Chinese herbs and later on into green foods and green powders and medicinal mushrooms way back. And the superfoods like the spirulina, the chlorella, the blue-green algae. And those are the foods I lived on. And then fruit. And then I got into raw foods for a while. There was a time shortly after that Kundalini awakening, I pretty much, in my early days, was living on cashews, dates, and figs as about 80% of my diet.
Wow.
And then I had to balance out. It was good for a time, but then to continue like that, I ran into Anna Kroger and she said, no sugar, no honey, no fruit for a month. Then the body chemistry is always changing. And it's really important to be able to listen to your body and to almost ask your body or just sit still and feel what the food you're going to ingest is going to do for you.
Yes, I can tell almost instantly. I went vegan for a while and I found that I could only do it for about 6 weeks before I really needed to eat some animal flesh. Yeah, which I don't really want to, but it's the only way I can feel right within myself. So I think that everybody's biochemistry is different and you need to follow what's good for you.
The body certainly doesn't lie.
Yes.
It's the red that is the magic wavelength because, again, we are far infrared light beings and we absorb far. Near has a lot of benefits, near and red light as well. The near will go in about a 16th of an inch and we resist it because we are not near infrared light beings. So we resist it unconsciously and it'll go in 16th of an inch and it's good for the skin. But the far goes in 2 inches and then because it's vibrational rather than photochemical or photomodulation, it talks to the other cells. And so it goes in 2 inches, but essentially goes to the core of the body because vibrationally it talks to the next cell and the whole body gets it. So it's amazing. The biggest question we go to is people say when I do shows is how come your sauna feels so much better? How come in 5 minutes, 7 minutes, all my pain is gone or half my pain, and this doesn't happen in my infrared sauna that cost me $10,000.
Wow.
They have too much near. They don't have enough of the active ingredient. The far infrared ray energy is the magic. I call it the loving light of the sun. And also, people say, well, I've been in this Relax Sauna now for 7 minutes, and I do feel like there's a warm blanket. And a lot of people have literally said, this is how I got the idea. They said, I feel like I'm being held by my loving grandma. For people to say that my heart centered open, or I feel like I'm basking in divine love, or as, oh my gosh, I don't want to get out. And they don't. I've got about 1,000 video testimonies, and about 300 of them are comparing it to other saunas. And I've got people with $10,000 infrared saunas find it as an upgrade.
And I was going to say it's just a fraction of the price. I saw that it was about $1,700 on your website. So where can people find those?
Relaxsaunas.com is the website.
I will have everything in the show notes. So I have a question about some of my clients are suffering from long COVID. They're in our age category in their 70s and they're suffering from long COVID. Would something like this be helpful for them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God. If you have long COVID and you're not using the Relax Sauna, you're missing an opportunity. We put 2 vaccine injured nurses into the Relax Sauna at a conference about 3-4 years ago. They both cried because they had feeling. One had feeling in her hands for the first time in 2 years. And the other one, she said, I could not feel the circulation in my leg from my hip to my foot. After 5 to 10 minutes, I felt the circulation.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And for those of you that are listening, I'm going to have all the information in the show notes, so you'll know where to go find Philip. So Philip, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom about the far infrared and how it can do your body really a lot of good.
Anastasia, I'm very impressed with your qualifications, with your history, with the information you have, and with your knowledge, because it's very rare for me to be interviewed by someone who seems to know as much or more than I do. about the value and the beauty and the wonderfulness of far infrared ray. But the most exciting thing, as a last kind of thing, when I get in the Relax Sauna every morning for 20 minutes, it puts a cup of coffee to shame. You feel so alert, so clear, as if you can tackle the world. If you do it at night, everyone says they sleep better.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because it gets the parasympathetic. And then when you get into the now, magic happens. Then you feel energized. If they go to YouTube and put in Relax Sauna testimonials, they can go to and see all 1,000 video testimonials, which will blow you away.
Okay, I'll put that also in the show notes so people can find them readily.
Can anyone who sees this podcast, can we give them $100 off? Give them a discount code.
That would be wonderful.
When they go to the website, they go to the cart, and then it'll ask for a code, and they can put in whatever.
Or just Anna, A-N-A.
Fine, we'll do that. If Anna's not available, it should be. We'll do Anna 25 or something like that. But let's pretend it's Anna A, and they'll get $100.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yes, thank you for offering that. I'm sure that the listeners and the watchers, because we're putting it up on YouTube too, that the watchers it's going to be everywhere. Thank you, Philip. I really have enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to speaking with you again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for making this available and educating the world about the wonders and beauties of far infrared energy.
Okay, awesome. In this conversation, you discovered how far infrared may support detoxification, cellular vitality, and a deeper sense of renewal, bridging science and natural healing in a way that helps your body recharge from within. Take a moment to give it a thumbs up or a 5-star rating and share it with a friend who's ready to reclaim their energy. When you're ready to bring more harmony and alignment into your relationships, check out my free 5-step relationship healing protocol at scientifichealer.com/relationship. Thank you for listening to Break Free from the Burnout. Resources and show notes are available at www.breakfreefromtheburnout.com. Until next time, I'm Dr. Anastasia Chopelas, sending you golden healing light and success vibes to become aligned, confident, and prosperous. Your gifts are so needed in this world.